And so proving that equaled 1 was important. Now, they probably already had a pretty good idea it equaled 1 because they substituted numbers in real close to 0 and worked it out, okay? And they noticed you kept getting like 0.9999 over 0.99998. Or you got 0.99991 over 0.999. They knew you were close to 1, but this was the proof. Now, notice the concept is you've got to have something smaller, something larger, and then they need to get what? Closer together so that you can figure out what's happening in the what? Middle. This type of theorem, and this is not the only one of them, but this type of theorem has a special name.
Pythagorean.
You know, okay, this is espresso, 4 shots in the morning of espresso, and 1 thing of raw sugar in there. That's so I can deal with answers like that.
Is it Leibniz or whatever? Leibniz?
Okay. Okay, think of an easy word. It is the blank theorem.
The triangle.
The sine theorem.
The limit.
The Trig theorem.
Greater than or less than.
The limit
What would,
theorem.
okay, the what theorem?
He said it.
The squeeze theorem.
What would you call it that? Because you're doing what? Yeah, you could call it the sandwich theorem, couldn't you? Sandwich, you got bread and part in the middle. To be honest, yes, this is really known as a squeeze theorem. Write that down. This is known, this is an example, this is an application of the squeeze theorem. This is not the squeeze theorem because you can use the squeeze theorem for more than this. Yeah, we just applied the squeeze theorem. Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll chat about that. Okay. Yeah, this is not the squeeze theorem. This is a what? Application of the squeeze theorem. Yeah. So we've taught you, we've done a proof, and we've taught you a concept.
No, that is not right.
Now, the squeeze theorem. Let me give you why it's handy to know that there's such a thing as this squeeze theorem, knowing this upper boundary and this lower boundary. All right? In real out there physics, there are equations that can't be solved yet. In really out there science, there are equations and expressions that can't be solved yet. But what you do, if you're about to work with some of that nasty stuff that you don't want to, burn down your lab, or you don't want to fall out and get a big dose of radiation in your lab, is you know the upper limit and you know the lower limit. You can solve, your question is an equation in the middle that you can't solve. But you know how to solve an equation that's always greater, and you know how to solve an equation that's always what? Smaller. So you know your results have to be somewhere in the middle. So in science, a lot of times they have something they can't solve, but they know what would give you a larger result, they know what would give you a smaller result, and they know their results has to be what? In the middle. It does help a whole lot if these are what? Close together. Sometimes, yeah, and sometimes they're not that close together. What you're hoping happens is like you get one that's like this, and the other one's like this, and then your reaction is what? In the middle. It's a really bad day if the top one's like this, the bottom one's like this, and all of a sudden your reaction is doing this. Yeah, you could have a real bad problem, couldn't you? So the squeeze idea is you really want that upper boundary and that lower boundary to do what? Get close together. And that's what we did here. And we did it with something that's simple enough that Mr. Evans could read it in a book and know how to do it. But when you talk about you know, how did you know to do that? The first person that came up with this had to really be on their game, because what you had in the middle had to translate to this, and these relationships had to be there. So, cool deal.
Did you know who that was?
Don't know, and my guess is that it might have been a guy by the name of L'Hopital. L'Hopital, the hospital. L'Hopital. But L'Hopital, could have been Leibniz.
That's what I was trying to say earlier.
Probably, and it may have been Leibniz, because he doesn't get credit for a lot of stuff he did. But in all honesty, it was probably 3 or 4 people coming up with it at the same time. Y'all do realize that calculus was not just created by Newton.
It was Leibniz.
Yeah, him and Leibniz were coming up with the stuff on different sides of the world at the same time and didn't even know it. All right? Now, that